Chapter 5. Disembark. A week later, you're back in the medbay with Sollux to evaluate how you're recovering. The docs are pleased with your progress. Your mobility is improving, slowly but steadily. Most nights, you can join Sollux or Karkat on errands around the ship without getting exhausted or falling. You still aren't strong or fast or precise, but you're not confined to a single hallway anymore, and they're optimistic that you'll get stronger if you keep at it. You're generally acclimating quite well to being in your body again. You've been sleeping pretty well lately, and it's been almost a week since you last woke up forgetting you were free. You're still easily overstimulated, but you can handle more than you could the first couple of nights, so most of the things you've been doing lately are perfectly manageable. It's far better than the half-aware haze you were in right after being freed. Now you're sensing and processing your surroundings just fine. One thing that continues to elude you is speech, but that surprises nobody. The doctors were already doubtful about recovering your voice, but they ask you to try it again, just to be sure. As before, what little sound you can make is quiet and broken-sounding and a little painful. You're pretty sure you screamed your voice to death centuries ago. Aside from that, though, your general pain levels are getting better. After that full day you spent immobilized by pain, Sollux got someone to give you some stronger pain meds just in case, but thankfully, you usually don't need them. The doc examines all your ports before neatly redressing them. While most of them still need time to heal, the ones on your temples look like they don't need to be covered anymore. They're smaller and shallower than the others, so they've healed faster. Apparently, you're even clear to try plugging something in if you want. You feel conflicted about that. It's okay. You don't have to, Sollux says quietly. You don't ever have to again if you don't want to.
Not sure. Could be useful. I don't know.
I get it. You don't have to decide now. Of course, there's no rush, the doctor agrees. They move on quickly after that, and you're grateful for it. You prefer this doctor to the other ones you've seen. They're a fellow Goldblood, so they're naturally more sensitive to what you've been through. They also treat you the most normally. The higher-blooded Metacolors tend to either be weirdly impressed by your mental acuity, or to underestimate and dismiss it entirely, and treat everything you say like you're only coherent by chance. They talk to Sollux more than to you. Clearly they think that the helm must have done a number on your intelligence. Don't they know how much you have to process at once to keep a ship running? This one, though, actually takes you seriously. They talk to you directly and wait patiently as you type. You're taking the time to make sure you don't skip any words for them. Articulating yourself has always been difficult, you think, so you're prone to using the wrong forms of words and cutting corners just to get your thoughts out. But you want to show you know how to do it right. When the next thing they want to test turns out to be your psionics, you immediately perk up. Partly because it's your name, but mostly because you haven't tried using your powers at all since you've been free. For one thing, you've only used them through your ports for the last few millennia. For another, they asked you to avoid it and let your energy build back up. You'd just flown a pretty demanding trip before the ship was taken over, and when the attack made you lose control of the system, you nearly burned out trying to restart it. But yesterday, Sollux stared you in the gander bulbs for an uncomfortable amount of time and wondered aloud when they'd gotten so bright. Now, we could go over and find out exactly how strong they are right now, but... The doctor trails off. You shudder and shrink into yourself a little. There are machines to test the full extent of a psionic's power, but you have to be plugged in. That's what I thought. We won't do that then. You relax at that, and they guide you through simple, low-tech tests instead. They start you off small, just tossing around a half-empty water bottle Sollux brought with him and testing both your precision and your endurance before working up to moving something bigger. You demonstrate your psionic dexterity by buttoning your shirt hands-free. You drag furniture around without much effort. You want to know if you're strong enough to fly, but they don't want you to get hurt if you drop yourself. "Lift me, then," Sollux blurts. Catching the doctor's apprehension, he explains, "I've got the reflexes to catch myself if I have to, and If you do drop me, I promise I will only hold it over you if it's funny. You don't drop him. You hold him a couple feet off the ground for a few minutes straight as the doc tells you about psionic health and what happens when you strain your powers too much. When Sollux shifts his position in midair, you're quick to instinctively adjust your hold in response and barely even notice you've done it. It can be hard for some people to maintain their grasp on someone who's moving, but your psi flows effortlessly around him as you sense where he's going. He looks over at you with a grin. That was a test, and you passed. The smile you give him in return only grows when he tries it a couple more times and you hold on flawlessly. After a while, the doc looks over at Sollux again and says, "All right, I think you've made your point. You can set him down now. I don't see any indication that ordinary use of psionics would be unreliable." Your expression brightens when you turn your palm husk around to them.
Good. I don't have to change my name then.
They laugh lightly. Correct. Just don't overdo it, Take it easy for a couple more weeks until you've got a sense of what you're working with. Your capacity could still be less than it used to be. You swat the air like you're shoving that idea away. Call you overconfident and prideful, but you're the best damn psionic in the universe. You're not worried. I'm sure that means, yes, I promise I'll hold back until I know what I can handle and not risk burning out, Sollux says, tilting his head suspiciously at you. To be clear, you do actually promise that. If you still have all or most of your power, you'd prefer to keep it rather than risk it recklessly. But bold of Sollux to promise that for you. You zap his hand, just a tiny bit. Sollux yelps and shakes out his hand. Ow! Seriously? You know, if I didn't already know you were older and more mature than me, I'd have a hard time believing it. Actually, just by looking at you and your test results, I'd guess you were only a few sweeps older than Sollux here. The doc chimes in. I know that you're not, but I also know you'd probably rather not discuss the source of your longevity. Your expression sours at the thought of her. Sollux's does too. But the point is that you're in remarkable shape for what you've been through. Between all your test results, your current mobility, and mental faculties, you're already doing far better than I would have predicted, certainly owing to a very diligent caretaker. At that, they give Sollux a kind smile. I can barely take care of myself, Sollux insists dismissively. You grin mischievously and type, No, it's true. You can't leave me alone. Well, you've taken great care of your ancestor, Sollux, the doc assures him. Such great care, in fact, that I don't think you need to stay here if you don't want to. Obviously, feel free to come back or give me a call if anything drastically changes, but I think you'll be all right. You could probably even leave the ship if you wanted to. Your eyes widen at that. Leave the ship? Suddenly, you are struck with a realization that you have been on this ship ever since you were first captured and helmed. Of course you haven't left since. How or why would you have? And it almost doesn't feel like you've been stuck in one place for thousands of sweeps, not when you've flown across the galaxy. This ship was you. You know it inside and out. It was your home as much as it was your prison. You simultaneously want nothing more than to leave, and can't fathom being anywhere else. Sollux thanks the doc and makes sure he has their number in case anything happens, before he takes your hand to help you to your feet. You zoned out a little there. You all right? He asks lightly, in a way you know means he won't make a big deal out of it if he doesn't need to. You simply nod and keep walking alongside him. He's still slowing himself down a little to match your pace, but you're keeping up a lot better these days. All right enough to come to this meeting with FF and everyone? She wants me there anyway, but she told me to extend the offer to you. They're going to be talking about the first phase of ship reforms for the fleet, and she said if you wanted to weigh in, she'd be happy to listen. But I know the medical stuff can be kind of draining, so if you'd rather crash in bed than be around a bunch of people for another couple hours, I totally get it. You are kind of tired, but when aren't you? You shake your head and point forward. You'll come? You nod. You want to see for yourself that the world is going to change. And if you can, you want to help shape that change. It reminds you vaguely of before. You were a rebel on Alternia. You wanted to free your caste then, too. Maybe, by being here to help now, you can finally bring to life the visions you had, the visions Signless had of a better future. A dull ache arises in your chest at the memory of him, and you have been getting more memories of him, of all of them. You let the feeling push you forward and motivate you to join this cause and do everything you can to build a better universe. For them, for their descendants, and yours. There are so many people in this block. You're kind of glad it isn't the ship's main command block. That would have reminded you too much of her, but at least that would have had more space. This is probably the most people you've been around at once since you got out. Sollux sat with you on the end of the long table, so you wouldn't have to be next to anyone except him, and Karkat is across from you. But despite their efforts to shield you from the others, you feel like everyone is staring at you. You wonder if it's because your reputation precedes you, or because you still look a little rough. Both are true, but what do they think when they see you? You lower your head as much as you can. Before you got here, Sollux tied up some of your hair to keep it off your temple ports, but maybe you can hide in your overgrown bangs. A lot of the meeting so far has been Feferi getting updates regarding specific tasks or missions. She even called on Sollux to ask about the internet surveillance systems, which you've continued to help him dismantle. For now, your interim solution has been to just stop it from sending whatever data it collects, but as long as it continues gathering and storing information, you have to delete it manually or risk that information being breached. So your long-term goal is to stop it from collecting anything in the first place. Removing an extraneous feature of a program seems like it shouldn't be hard, but this system was designed to be nigh impossible to fully avoid. Which is why, while you're impressed that anyone could get around it completely, you're also entirely unsurprised that the person who did was your own descendant. He's clearly proud of himself, but not too proud to deny you credit for your contributions. He happily tells everyone how much you've helped him with this project. Upon this acknowledgement, you half wave to the room and then look back down at the empty table in front of you. You're not paying attention, you're just slightly tuned out. Overwhelmed, maybe. Your mind feels kind of hazy, almost like you're in a dream, like you're not sure who you are or if what you're doing is real. Not that you're doing much. Eventually, your head clears enough to let you focus on the conversation again, but simply being here still feels strange. You try to ignore it, as Feferi, does she have a title yet? Should you be calling her something else? Shifts the conversation.
In other words, I want to work out the best way to ensure that trolls can still sail from planet to planet, star system to star system, without having to harm other trolls. I know there are ships like mine that run entirely on other power sources. How can we make that more mainstream?
The main issue is speed, says a broad-shouldered blue blood you don't know the name of. The Alternian Empire spans thousands of light sweeps, but most mechanical ships cannot surpass the speed of light. Without sufficient speed, one would essentially be confined to a single star system. Recall our efforts to lure battleship Condescension in the direction of Alternia so that we could reach her here, just a couple of star systems over, and your ship is one of the most capable of its type. The current technology is simply too limited, unfortunately.
How much can it be improved upon?
Feferi asks him. Depends how much supernatural bullshit we can cram into a ship without reinventing the helm. Sollux grumbles.
Is there research being done into how we can do that, Equius?
Feferi asks, mostly ignoring Sollux's skepticism. I'll look into it and report back with the strongest options, the blue blood replies.
Good. In the meantime, I want to see if we can persuade those who are already operating within just 1 or 2 star systems to make the switch. Especially considering the end of the conquest efforts, there should be fewer reasons for such long-distance travel, aside from trade and personal purposes. And I wonder how much long-distance trade we can reduce.
She looks up suddenly and giggles.
Sorry, thinking out loud. Let's take a look at the more social side of the issue, then.
She looks across the table to you and Sollux. If the sensation of all eyes on you was just imagined before, it certainly isn't now. Your pulse quickens under the sudden attention. It's a little strange. You don't recall being socially anxious on Alternia, but these days you're easily overwhelmed and not fond of most of the attention you receive. Sometimes, when you accompany Sollux and Karkat around the ship and your surroundings are too much, you'll wander off alone to find somewhere secluded to calm down. You wish you could do that now, but everyone's expecting you to say something. It's the whole reason you're here.
I'm really glad you joined us, Psiioniic,
Feferi tells you with a warm smile.
Your perspective is going to be unbelievably valuable. We're all eager to hear whatever you want to tell us.
You nod politely and look down at your palm husk to open a message to Sollux so he can read it out for you. He's not being rude, Sollux clarifies before anyone can react. His voice is pretty much gone, so we're working with what we got. Just give him 2 seconds. The whole block falls eerily quiet as everyone waits for you to type something out. The silence claws at your hear ducts and makes it even harder to assemble your words, but you manage to string something together. Taciturn Aberration began trolling Twin Armageddons.
Means a lot that you'd listen. Not used to people caring what I think.
He says, it means a lot that you'd listen. I'm not used to people caring what I think. Sollux tells the room.
And that's exactly why it's so important for us to take your point of view into account.
Feferi agrees. Maybe it would help to ask a specific question, just to get the ball rolling, Sollux suggests. I've got one, Karkat chimes in. If you could tell the whole Empire one thing, what would it be? Oh, easy.
That I'm still a fucking person. Always was, even when didn't feel like.
You mean that you didn't feel like you were a person? Karkat clarifies. You nod slowly and look down to elaborate.
When you're plugged in, feels like you are the ship. Lots of processing power for computing, navigating, flying. But emotions dulled. Suppressed, maybe. Felt like machine doing what I'm told. But I was still in there. Still had thoughts. Both forgot who I was before and hate when people talk like I was object. Too busy flying ship to think about.
Sollux fills in the missing words as he relays all of that, but your point remains intact, so you don't mind. When he catches up, he asks, what about how people see you now? I'm asking because I know how you feel about it, but I think we should all hear it.
God, finally. Excuse to tell people stop staring. Yes, I'm alive. Yes, I can understand you. Lost voice, not think pan.
Sollux chuckles a little when he reads it, makes sure to mention the shout polls you included, and then follows it up with, yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I don't know if the staring is just because they know who you are. You're kind of a big deal for many reasons. But I've definitely seen the way some people get surprised that you're as sharp as you are, and it's always baffled me. Underestimating you is just another smaller way they show that either they don't respect you as a troll, or they're scared to because then they have to face the sheer weight of everything you've been through, Karkat says unhappily. But it still happened, whether they acknowledge it or not. If they're uncomfortable with it, that should be all the more reason to help put an end to this shit. You don't really have anything to say to that. He's right, but you hate constantly being reminded the fight still isn't over just because you're out now. Your time in the helm will stay with you in ways you'll never be fully rid of. You're surprised by the interest Sollux's friends take in what you have to say. A few of them ask their own questions. You give them a vague description of the lasting effects that you're dealing with, focusing mainly on the physical things, because It's somehow easier to talk about how the wires were slowly tearing you apart through the ports than it is to talk about forgetting everything about your life before, but remembering the helm so vividly that you sometimes convince yourself you're back in it. You tell them the pain was one of the only things you could consistently feel while you were plugged in. You emphasize more than once how urgent the need is to get everyone out. Most helmsmen aren't as well cared for as you were. They hang on to your every word. They take everything you say seriously, and firmly assure you that freeing the rest of your cast is one of their top priorities. You feel something warm building in your chest. You've felt it before, but not for lifetimes. Hope. Dangerous thing that it is. You don't stay at the meeting much longer. It's indescribably reassuring to be listened to, but all that attention becomes draining. Your responses grow slower and shorter as your energy wanes, and eventually a shift in the conversation gives you an opportunity to send Sollux a message asking if you can leave while the attention's off you. He doesn't hesitate in standing up and telling Feferi that you're both heading out now, without even insinuating why or inviting any follow-up questions. He's the best. Don't tell him you said that, though. It'll go to his head. The journey back to your block is a longer walk than you're used to, and your legs begin to ache as you stumble along breathlessly. It takes until you nearly trip over nothing to remember you can fly now. You've already picked yourself up by the time Sollux turns around. You okay? He asks, just to check. You give him a thumbs up and float along beside him. Suddenly, you have no trouble keeping up with his pace. So, he says casually when you're settled back in your block, already pulling out his palm husk in anticipation of your response. How are you feeling about being able to leave here now? Taciturn aberration began trolling twin Armageddons.
Doesn't feel real. Haven't left ship. Ever.
That's okay. I won't rush you. Whenever you're ready.
No. I think it's time. I mean, not now, but I've needed to get out of this place for a long-ass time. No point waiting longer, right?
Sollux looks up at you with a smile before responding. Hey?
Hi.
I'm really, really glad you're okay. It's your turn to look up at him with an emotional exhale and a sentimental smile. It takes you a while to put words together for what you're thinking, but you want to say this right.
It's thanks to you. Words can't say how big what you did for me was. I gave up on myself too long ago to remember. But you didn't just save my life. That wasn't life. You gave me back the life she stole.
You're just sitting on the edge of the bed facing Sollux, so you barely have to lift your head to get a look at him. When you do, you're surprised to find him a teary-eyed mess. I'm okay. It's a good cry. He breathes when he sees you've noticed. Something I did mattered, and it didn't end in disaster, and we're gonna help so many more people, and... He cuts himself off with a shuddery exhale. This Perigy's been a lot. Fending off your own tears, you float yourself right in front of him and wrap him up in a tight hug. The moment you reach around Sollux and he collapses into your embrace, you have another one of those little realizations, a thought that's crossed your mind 1,000,000 times in the last 2.5 weeks, about something different each time. How long has it been since you've given a hug? This feels good. This feels right. Sollux is safe. You're comfortable when he's around. You trust him, and he clearly trusts you too. He's done so much for you, and you've wanted to protect him since day one. The word finally occurs to you. He's your family. You decide to sleep here one more day, you and Sollux both, and you'll leave after you've rested. You spend the rest of the night getting ready to go, which isn't difficult for you because you have nearly no personal belongings. So really you just help Sollux pack. Honestly, I have no idea what'll happen to this ship. Sollux rambles, just for the sake of conversation. FF can do whatever she wants with it, since it's hers now, I guess, but she won't fly it anywhere unless it undergoes some major modifications, for obvious reasons. Which leads me to wonder if wherever we are on this planet, whatever city we're next to, is equipped for a project like that. You just shrug, having little else to respond with. You think this planet is actually pretty well known for construction and engineering, but you don't remember what part of it you're on now. You didn't really get a good look at the map before the helm went dark. You weren't even the one to land the ship. It had to be done manually because you'd already lost control. Well, it's not my problem. I really don't care what she does with it, Sollux concludes. Hey, I think I've got everything. Could you check if there's anything left in the ablution block? You nod and duck into the ablution block. The floor is clear, and there's not much on the counter either. Just to be sure, you check behind you in the mirror. In doing so, you get a clear view of your reflection. Whoa, that's you? You've caught glimpses of yourself in the mirror in your own ablution block, but after the first time, you tried to avoid looking too thoroughly. You kind of thought you'd still look like the frail, haunted wisp of a troll Sollux dragged out of the helm's block. But you don't. Your hair, grown out past your shoulders, has already started to tangle again since Sollux brushed it and tied part of it back for you earlier. Your clothes are loose-fitting to contrast with what you wore in the helm. Your eyes look tired, but you seem brighter, and not just in the literal sense. You still look weary and weak, but you don't look as half-dead and agonized as before. You might even venture to say that you look happy. Anything in there? Sollux calls, pulling you from your thoughts. You come back out of the ablution block and shake your head. Then I think we're all set, he announces proudly. I'll take you back to Earth so you can sleep, and I'll come get you whenever I wake up. You nod. It's decided then. Take a look around. This is your last day on this ship. You might be a little sentimental about leaving behind what was technically your home for the vast majority of your life, if it weren't for everything that happened to you here. Honestly, if you never come back, it'll be too soon. You sleep, but not deeply, and are already awake when Sollux comes by to get you in the evening. Hey, Psi, you ready? He asks. You hold up your one bag, get up, and follow him out the door and down this hallway for the last time. He rambles to you about getting you set up on the ship he came here in, and then maybe checking out the nearby city if you're up for it. But your mind is elsewhere. Just like how you, too, will soon be elsewhere. You can't tell if you're happy or scared, even though you're not sure what you'd have to be afraid of. As you float by Sollux's side through the halls, you're filled with a jittery energy. You suppose any change this big will be a lot to take in, even good change. The airlocks were typically heavily guarded when the ship was in flight, and for good reason, given the nature of airlocks. Since taking over, Feferi ordered a significant reduction in guard activity throughout the ship, largely because the ship is to remain grounded until further notice. Unlike the helm's block, these gates are some of the few places she didn't leave unmanned. But that's mostly for security reasons and not air pressure reasons. The guard at this gate doesn't even stop you as you approach. "Friends of young Miss Pacious," he says with a nod of recognition. "Go right ahead." He's not stopping you. No one is trying to keep you here or drag you back. No one is standing between you and the outside world. When the first bit of sky cracks through the airlock doors, you trudge forward as if in a daze as you take in what you see. It feels almost like you're dreaming, but No, it's real. You're actually leaving. You're actually free. You're stepping outside the ship, and you're walking out onto the surface of a planet, and it's real. It's real. It's real! A multicolored cityscape glimmers in the distance. The sky above is scattered with clouds. The air is warm with the last fading light of this planet's star. It's early enough that the glow of the sunset still lingers along the horizon. A sparsely grassy field stretches out before you, more wide-open space than you've seen in eons. As you step off the platform leading down from the ship, a gentle gust of honest-to-God wind blows by. It's so beautiful you could cry. You try not to. You don't want to blur your sight with a view like this. But the wind picks up and blows your hair across your face, and you reach up to sweep it back into place and know that that actually happened. You're not imagining any of this. And that's when the tears start to well up. You stumble forward with a shaky breath, then let yourself fall to your knees and weep.
Did you just literally get knocked over by a stiff breeze?
Sollux calls out as he floats down next to you. Your laugh tangles with the sobs in your throat as you look up at him, shake your head, and then throw your arms around him in immeasurable relief. You made it. Despite all the torment and agony, despite everything you lost, you survived. You're here now, and you've got a life to live. Sat between the fresh, open air of this planet's atmosphere and the soft dirt of its surface, freed of everything that was destroying you, and beholden to no one's whims but your own. You feel so light, you could float away. After taking a minute or two to collect yourself, you and Sollux do fly away, specifically in the direction of the other, smaller ship sitting a short way from where you are. It's not nearly as flashy or intimidating as the one you're used to, which is a welcome change of pace. The interior is rather plain and practical, but scattered throughout is evidence that this ship is someone's home. Sollux gives you a quick tour of the common areas, and then shows you to his block. You can set up in here for now, he tells you. I don't know what you'd prefer long-term, but it's okay if you're not sure yet. We don't know what our long-term plans are either. You nod and set down your bag. Taciturn aberration began trolling twin Armageddons.
Happy to stay with you, as long as you'll have me. Gonna go into city?
Yeah, if you want. Oh, before we go, though. You look up curiously as Sollux's demeanor grows shy. He leans against the edge of his desk, seemingly too embarrassed to meet your gaze. You'd start to worry, but he's smiling. So, I might possibly, maybe, potentially have something for you, he tells the floor. But I don't know if it might be. You don't have to accept it. There's no pressure at all. Just maybe you'll use it, maybe you won't. It's okay if you don't want to. I just thought now would be a good time, like a happy Freedom Day present. He opens his backpack and produces a small, nondescript box. Taped to the top of it is a handwritten note.
Sollux, I hope this prototype meets your specifications. If it requires any adjustments or revisions, don't hesitate to let me know. Equius.
You carefully open the box. The device inside looks like some sort of earpiece, judging by the shape and size. The part that goes in front doesn't seem to go inside your ear, though. It must just support the heftier body of the device, which sits behind the ear. Coming out of the edge of the body is a thin wire the size of a headphone cord. Judging by the length and direction of it, you think you know where it's meant to connect. Sollux's hesitance makes sense now. I designed it myself, he tells you quietly, which means I know everything that's in it. I kept it as simple as possible. It can't do anything to your pan. It'll only do what you tell it to. You lift the device out of the box to examine it, and then see another note under it. This one is in Sollux's quirk, and seems to be a homemade instruction manual, complete with a hand-drawn illustration that confirms your suspicions about how the device is meant to be worn. Put it on and plug it in. It will take a small amount of energy, but I'm working on a battery-powered version. Tell it the words you want to say and imagine how you want to say it. It should be able to replicate exactly what you picture. Tone, volume, pitch, enunciation. You gasp and look up at him, wide-eyed. This is a speech device. He designed this. For you? In the span of 2 weeks? With the device still in one hand and the box in the other, you stagger forward and wrap him in a grateful hug. Oh, he breathes as he hugs you back. You're welcome. You're so eager to try it that you don't even think to be nervous until you're holding the end of the wire in front of your temple port. You freeze and your hand tenses up, but only momentarily. You remember what Sollux told you. He knows what's in this. It can't hurt you. It can't take much more power than it needs, and it can't send anything back to you. You trust him. Just breathe. With a shaky hand, you steel yourself and plug it in. You barely feel anything aside from the tenderness of the nearly healed wound there. That subsides as soon as you take your hand away. You can't even tell if the device is taking any power. It probably is, but the amount is nothing compared to what you're used to putting out.
Is it on?
No sooner do the words go through your mind than you gasp and cover your mouth in amazement. Not just because it works, but because that's your voice. How did he make it sound like you? It's the same recreation of your voice they used on the ship. I wanted it to sound less synthetic, but I didn't have anything to make a new one with, so I just took that one. He rambles nervously. But if you'd rather, I can... It being from the ship and all, maybe I should have just... You cut him off with a shake of your head. God, you're never gonna stop owing this kid, are you? He found you and saved you. He helped you heal. He gave you back your life, and now he's giving you back your voice. He's done more for you than you could have ever hoped to even ask for. And he's still not satisfied with himself. He must have a bit of sineless in him with perfectionism like that. Taking his hands in yours, you meet Sollux's eyes and smile. For once in your life, despite the overwhelming emotion flooding your mind, you know exactly what you want to say.
Sollux. It's perfect. Thank you.